Everything's still on course for Jordan to go today during Indy?
Yeah, he should be going today.
I know we talked to you about the schedule yesterday. What was the the method behind having Wednesday as the off day this week?
Just when you look at 4 days in a row, that the accumulation of that can have a negative impact on your football team. So we'll go, especially the majority of today's practice is dedicated to those guys that didn't either play much or didn't play at all. Just want them to get out there, get a good sweat. Then tomorrow will be really everybody's involved, and then we'll taper back on Wednesday and then crank it back up on Thursday.
Are you kind of getting into full regular season week 1 prep this week, or is there still some work on Buffalo being done?
We kind of split up our staff in terms of how we go about putting together, a plan for the final preseason game, because obviously you want your guys to go out there and be successful, and then we've got another group that's kind of more focused on some of the work that we need to get in before the regular season.
Matt, in terms of your preseason, timeline, obviously we're in a 3-week preseason now instead of before, do you feel like it's a little condensed? Do you feel under pressure to make these coaching decisions and moves now?
No, not really. I mean, as far as the timeline's concerned, it's the same as it really has always been. It's just the format's much different, obviously, and so it's our first time kind of going through this, and we're adjusting accordingly.
These guys are professionals. Do you even need to stress to them that, especially with the cut tomorrow and then the next one coming out, that essentially every rep could be their last time, last chance to show what they have?
Yeah, I think these guys understand the ramifications of cuts in this league, and every time you go out on that field, you're being evaluated, whether it's one play or you're playing 60 plays. So the guys understand the importance of every play and trying to maximize each opportunity that they get to go out there and making sure that they continually get better.
And who gets the call the plays at Buffalo, and what do you get out of not having to call the plays? What are the kind of bonuses of you getting kind of a bigger picture view instead of focusing on play calling?
Yeah, we haven't necessarily finalized the Buffalo plan in terms of who's calling it, but the benefit is you really get a chance to kind of observe everything that's going on around you, whereas when you're calling a game, you're so focused on the adjustments that you got to make, and certainly it was good to see the perspective of really for all 3 phases, and also it empowers your other people to develop. I thought it was a great opportunity for Luke Getsy and for Adam Stenovich. I thought they did an outstanding job, both of those guys, just in terms of getting the play calls in. I know that in my past, when I've been given that opportunity, it was beneficial, so that the first time when you actually are the coordinator, that it's not, as big of a deal because you've had at least some experience.
Were you nicer to them than McVay was to you?
Oh, of course. Are you kidding me? Sean was questioning every play call. I think I told them, I said, I'll be quiet. They didn't believe me, but I think I did a decent job of not chiming in too much.
Matt, I was trying to think in 19, how did you handle that then? Did Nathaniel take one of the games as far as the play calling, or how did you go about divvying up those assignments?
Yeah, trying to think back to that. Yeah, I think that first year I handled the majority of it, but I think both Hackett and Getsy both got some time calling it. Because just everybody was so new, so it's not like I'd been calling plays for that long. So you want to make sure that you're getting better as well.
Could you ever see yourself not doing it in a real game, or is that just always going to be you?
If I even answer that question, Bill, you're trying to get a headline right now.
No, I see. Seriously, like when you're a 55-year-old coach and you're in your 20th, whatever season here,
I think everything's up for discussion. Whatever helps our team the best way, that's how we'll always handle it. And if I think that's best for our football team, then that's the route we'll go. But there's a lot of guys that I have a lot of confidence in that are on our offensive staff that there's no doubt that they could do probably, if not as good, a better job than I can do.
So Matt, your first two games, new coaches installing new plans, but now you come out with this playoff team that had a good day against Chicago. Do you make that a point of emphasis to these players about what it's going to be like playing the Bills in Buffalo this week?
Yeah, again, I think it's more about we're going to focus on ourselves, on our process, and just making sure that our guys are going out there competing to the best of their ability and, giving great effort, doing their job each and every play. I think that we're always going to try to bring it back to us and make it about what we do.
Do you want Joe Barry on the field when he's calling plays, or does he have a preference which way to go?
Yeah, we've talked about that. Certainly, I think there's a lot of benefit to him being down there. Just the energy that he brings, and it's easier obviously when you have direct communication with your players when you're making adjustments. I do think there's some benefit to being up top in terms of it's definitely a much more sterile environment where there's not as much noise. You can really hone in and focus on making sure you're putting your guys in the best position. So I think at the end of the day, everybody feels a little bit differently about where they would rather be. I know for me as a play caller, it was a little bit easier to gather your thoughts and make adjustments when you got everything nice and laid out in front of you and there's no chaos going on. It took a minute to adjust to the field. But I love the interaction. I think you get a better feel when you're close to the action of just things that you might not feel in a box in terms of maybe it's how one of your guys is attacking a corner and it's happening right in front of you. So I think there's benefits to both, and I think it's just we'll tinker with that and try to make the best decision possible for us.
Joe said something to you yesterday about, he hasn't played a lot of his ones in the 2 games so far, but he says working against you guys in the Jets really gave him a good look. Do you feel that same way about the offense, that you've got a good enough handle on how you guys are going to be functioning as a group that hasn't really taken game snaps?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of it's going to come down to making sure that we just get the necessary move the ball periods, and we're going to start doing more of those in the weeks leading up. So it's less scripted, more move the ball, more call it, trying to get the tempo in and out of the huddle, the substitutions, just the overall communication and execution of all the little things that go on in between each and every play.
Matt, we talk to players all the time about how they get their development, how they get more comfortable year 1, year 2, going into year 3. I'm curious as a coach, though. I asked Robert last week about your evolution as a coach. He said you're 26-6. There's not a lot to really correct there. But do you feel more confident now as a head coach now than you did 2 years ago? Do you feel more comfortable? Do you feel like you've developed?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think every day you maybe get a little bit more confident, more comfortable, but just you never want to lose sight of what's gotten you to where you've been, and certainly that's first with all the guys in that locker room. We've got some really good players, and we've got a great staff, and it's okay to lean on those guys. But I feel like every day you're learning, you're growing, and that's got to be the mindset for everybody in this building.
What's the difference for you now than maybe 2 years ago when you're in your first camp? Same job, but what's the difference?
Well, I think number one, you know everybody so much better. You know what they're capable of doing. Obviously, the relationships are so much stronger. I think it's easier for me to have, if when needed, a tougher conversation with whether it's a coach or player, just making sure that we're continually trying to improve and making sure we're giving the great effort that these guys do. And I think just they know where it's coming from. It's because we want the best for everybody in this building.
How much different is the COVID travel policy for this year compared to last year? And is this a good test to kind of get a feel of that going into the season?
Yeah, that will be a good test. To be honest with you, I haven't done my homework on that yet to really feel it out. But I'm sure there's going to be some similarities to last year. But it sounds like it's going to be much more open for the vaccinated people on the trip in terms of what we're allowed to do. Last year, we were basically confined to the hotel wherever we were at. And this year, certainly you can see people if you are vaccinated.
What did Kylan show you on that play on Saturday where the ball went through Kurt's hands and he was Johnny on the spot and caught it and made a little something out of it?
Yeah, that was just a great reaction. There was zero hesitation to him, and he's done a really nice job all throughout camp in the 2 preseason games, and he's a guy that we're pretty excited about.
Is that, maybe I'm overthinking that, but I would think as a rookie maybe you'd have tunnel vision on whatever your assignment is on a play. Does that show that he's kind of moved beyond that, or am I just totally?
I just think it's one of those things that he just reacted to, and there wasn't a lot of thought about what to do. Just like I thought Kurt did a nice job getting up off the ground, and there was no hesitation there,
Hey, Matt, you've set a lot of your defensive starters, but one you haven't is Barnes. I get that he's a young player, but he's also your communicator out there. What has he shown you in the 2 games that he's played in, and how important have these snaps been for him since he's going to be running your defense out there, it looks like?
Yeah, I think he's done a nice job doing his job and making sure that the communication's on point. I think that's one of the things that we've really tried to emphasize with not only our defense, but everybody, whether you're on special teams or on offense. Just communication in the huddle is so imperative, making sure that we're giving the other 10 guys out there, whatever the personnel may be, both offensively and defensively. And he's got good command of it. And I just think that, again, you said it, he's a young player, so those reps are important for young guys.
You reached out to Robert at all just to commiserate with how many crappy things have happened to his team in the last 4 or 5 days that he was here? I mean, God, those guys had some pretty rotten luck over here.
Yeah, no, we definitely talked about it, and I think, it's one of the unfortunate things that happens in our profession, whether you lose players or whatnot. And I think as the leader, though, you got to have that mentality that we're not going to flinch, and because nobody's going to feel sorry for you. That's just the reality of the business that you're in. Just like I tell you guys all the time, no matter who's out there for us, the standards and expectations don't change. So, unfortunately, he's got to go through that right now, but we got a lot of confidence that he will get the most out of those guys and put them in position to be successful. And then, the players got to go out there and do it.
All right, let's go to Zoom. Sarah, go ahead.
Yep, we have 2 in here. We'll start with Aaron Engler.
Coach, the other day you mentioned where your focus was prior to the snap going off on offense, whether it was the point of attack, the expected slant of the ball, etc. What's that like during the regular season when you're calling a play, the communication gets shut off at 15 seconds? What are you looking at, and what are you kind of focused on?
Well, I would say up to the point of the snap, you're more or less thinking about, okay, what is my next call going to be? Because there is a rhythm to it, and so you kind of zero in on maybe 1 or 2 plays, and certainly that can change based on the outcome of whatever the play may be. But I still think at the point of which, when the ball is snapped, your eyes typically go to where that point of attack is, or maybe you're looking at the coverage or whatever it might be. And then certainly if you get kind of off scripted, whether it's a get back on track situation, or you got a 3rd down, or you get a big play and you go down in the red zone, certainly whatever thoughts you may have had in your head about what the next call might be, they can certainly change quickly, and you just got to make sure that you kind of try to stay ahead of every situation, kind of earmark whatever plays you might want, so that there is no hesitation when you get in those situations.
Olivia Reiner.
Hi, Matt. You mentioned that because you weren't calling the game on Saturday, you could observe everything a little bit more. What's an example of something that you noticed that you may not have been able to had you been calling plays?
Well, I think I talked about it after the game, but there were some things that happened, you know, like the wave going on when we were on offense, and that I probably would have never even thought about. I know we were showing a bang-bang play on the sideline that we made on a third down, which I've never seen before in an opposing team's stadium. So there were a couple issues that came up.